If not for your pension, it'd be useless to us. That's what my son said as I set a plate of roast chicken in front of him. I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just turned back to the kitchen, pretending the faucet's hiss was louder than his words. Roberta, his wife, tapped her fork against her glass. A signal, agreement, maybe even triumph. Across the table, my granddaughter Callie looked up from her phone, but only for a second. She didn't defend me. She didn't need to. Her silence was enough. I stood at the sink, drying hands that weren't wet, staring at the dish rack like it could give me another ending. A version where my son remembered the storms I held him through, the student loans I helped him pay, or the day I signed the house over because it's safer that way. Mom, just paperwork. But no one remembered. No one thanked me. That night, when the dishwasher hummed and their voices blurred into background noise, I walked into this small storage room that used to be mine. I pulled out the suitcase I had hidden for years just in case. One change of clothes, my wallet, the notebook with account numbers. A photo of Tom and me before everything cracked. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked. The motel smelled of bleach and old carpet, but the silence there was mine. For the first time in years, silence didn't cut it healed. I sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my notebook, and started listing not what they had taken, but what I still had left. That's when I realized the papers I signed weren't love. They were chains. The journals I filled weren't ramblings. They were records. And if I was brave enough to write it all down, maybe I was brave enough to fight. So I called Evelyn, my old friend, a retired paralegal with a spine like steel. She didn't scold me for being naive, didn't pity me for being broken. She just said, then let's fix it. But you need evidence, and you already have it. If you followed me this far leaning in, waiting to see how far a mother will bend before she finally breaks, this is where I invite you to subscribe to my channel, Shattered Bonds. Because behind closed doors, families fracture quietly, and the stories no one tells are the ones that cut deepest. The next day, I sat in a diner with a cheap cup of coffee, highlighting documents, photographing journals, and piecing together years of small humiliations. Roberta's texts, bank statements, boxes labeled with my name crossed out. Proof that love had been weaponized against me. By the second refill, I wasn't just an old woman with nowhere to go. I was a case waiting to be heard. Then came the knock. 3 quick taps. A pause, then 2 more. A rhythm I hadn't heard in years. Callie, my granddaughter, 13, messy ponytail, backpack slung low, eyes too sharp for her age. Don't freak out, she said. I took the bus. Mom thinks I'm at Macy's. Before I could reply, she threw her arms around me. It wasn't gentle, it was desperate. You're the only one who cared when I had asthma. They didn't even learn how to use my inhaler. You did. My throat burned. I held her tighter. She pulled back, glared around the motel room. Why are you here? Why did you leave? I could have lied. I could have told her it was temporary. Instead, I told her the truth. I didn't leave. I was pushed, quietly. Over years, her face hardened. I saw everything. How Dad stopped looking at you. How Mom called you dead weight. If this goes to court, I'll talk. I'll tell them what I saw. I wanted to say no. To protect her. But she wasn't a child anymore, not after surviving that house. So I gave her the burner phone Evelyn told me to buy. She slipped it into her hoodie. I'll keep it on me, she whispered. When she left, the room felt heavier and lighter at once. She had seen everything. And now, she was my witness. Days blurred into planning, gathering, waiting. Evelyn's emails sharpened my case. My journals stitched together a pattern of cruelty too consistent to dismiss. Then court came. The courtroom was pale and small. The clock ticked too loudly. Damien sat 2 chairs away, jaw clenched, eyes down. Roberta wasn't there. Cowards rarely are. His lawyer smiled, sharp and practiced. She abandoned the home voluntarily. The deed was properly notarized. Her journals. Delusions. Symptoms of instability. I let her finish. Then I opened my bag, pulled out my worn journal, and I read October 12th, Roberta asked me to eat in the garage. There were 3 chairs empty at the table. November 2nd, Damien told me I should be grateful they let me stay, though my pension covered last month's mortgage. December 25th, I wasn't invited to the family photo. They said it was just for kids. pageafterpage.com/steady. Undeniable. This isn't proof of delusion, I said. It's proof that I noticed everything and stayed silent until now. The judge's pen stopped. The silence in the room was heavier than anger. Then Callie stood, shoes squeaking, hand shaking. She adjusted her sleeves, her nervous tick. And then she spoke. My grandma was never a burden. She helped me, cared for me, even when my parents didn't. They used her pension. They called it silent income. They told her to eat alone. That's not family. That's theft. Her voice didn't crack. It cut. And Damien's face went pale. The judge leaned forward. Do you feel safe saying this? Callie nodded. I do now. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. That was the moment I knew. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were winning. The verdict came swift. Coercion proven. Elder financial abuse acknowledged. My right to occupy and protect the home restored. Any harassment would lead to criminal charges. Roberta stormed out, chair clattering behind her. Damien stayed frozen, blank, as if staring at the ruins of his own reflection. I didn't speak to him. Silence was enough. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's a mirror. When I left the courtroom, Callie was waiting, backpack slung over one shoulder. Her other hand in Bernice's, the cafe owner who had given me shelter when no one else would. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt like a woman with a voice. If you felt that sting, that quiet suspense turning into justice then, subscribe to Shattered Bonds, because stories like mine aren't fiction. They're the truths we bury until someone finally dares to speak them.